Captain Soren Vex of the scout ship Quiet Feather had one simple job: watch the humans, do not be seen, report everything back to the Concord Science Council. That was all. It sounded easy when the mission briefing was read to him 3 weeks ago. Now, floating in the dark just behind a human medical ship, he was starting to think nothing about humans was ever going to be easy. Soren was a threll, a small furred being with large black eyes made for seeing in dim starlight. His people were known across many star systems for being cautious. Some other species called them cowards. The threll did not like that word. They preferred to call themselves careful. Careful people lived longer. Careful people did not walk into fights they did not understand. And nobody understood humans. That was the whole reason the Concord had sent Soren out here in the first place. Humans were new to the wider galaxy. Only 60 years past their first contact with other species. In that short time, they had done strange things. They had made peace with 3 different species who had been at war for centuries. They had also fought off 2 invasions that should have wiped them out. Reports about humans did not agree with each other. Some said humans were gentle and kind, always ready to help. Others said humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and quick to fight when pushed. The Concord Science Council wanted real answers, not rumors, so they sent scouts like Soren to watch humans quietly, from a safe distance, and write down what they saw. Soren had been assigned to watch a ship called the Kestrel's Mercy. It was a human rescue ship, not a warship. It had white and gold markings on its hull, and a symbol that looked like an open hand holding a small star. Soren had read that this symbol meant, "We come to help, not to hurt." The Kestrel's Mercy belonged to a group called the Human Deep Space Relief Corps. Their only job was to fly to places in trouble and save lives. No weapons, no armor, just medical bays, food storage, and a crew trained to keep people alive in the worst situations. It seemed like the perfect ship to study. Safe, calm, boring even. Soren had told his crew this would be an easy mission. Follow the rescue ship, watch how the humans worked, take notes, go home. He was wrong. It started 3 days ago, when the Kestrel's Mercy received a distress call. Soren's ship picked up the same signal, because Threll Scout technology could listen to almost any frequency in known space. The message was faint, broken up by static, but the words were clear enough to understand. "This is New Haven Station. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Civilian casualties rising. We need medical help immediately. Any ship that can hear this, please respond." Soren's second officer, a threll named Priada, floated beside him in the control room, her ears flat against her head. Flat ears meant worry, in threll body language. "Captain," she said, "New Haven Station is in the Kessling Belt. That whole region is a war zone right now. The Karathi Empire and the Sable Combine have been fighting there for almost a year." Soren knew this. Every scout in the Concord fleet knew about the Kessling conflict. 2 powerful star nations, both proud, both stubborn, fighting over mining rights to a belt of asteroids rich in rare metals. Neither side would back down. Neither side cared much about anyone caught in the middle. Small colonies, trading posts, and mining stations in that region had learned to either leave or hide. New Haven Station, it seemed, was a human colony that had not been able to leave in time. "They are going to answer that call," Soren said quietly, watching the sensor readout. On his screen, the Kestrel's Mercy was already changing course. Its engines flared brighter as it turned toward the Kessling Belt. "Captain, that is insane," Priada said. "That ship has no weapons, no shields strong enough to survive real combat. If they fly into an active war zone, they could be destroyed in minutes." "I know," Soren said. "Then we should turn back. Our mission is to observe safely, not to fly into a battle ourselves." Soren looked at the small blip on his screen that represented the human ship. He thought about his orders. Watch from a distance. Stay hidden. Do not take risks. That was the sensible plan, the careful plan. But something made him hesitate. He had spent 3 days watching the crew of the Kestrel's Mercy through long-range sensors and stolen bits of their communications. He had seen the captain, a woman named Elena Cruz, running drills with her medical team late into the ship's night cycle, making sure everyone knew their job perfectly. He had seen the ship's doctor, an older man named Tomas Reyes, spend hours reviewing medical files of colonies across the sector. so he would be ready no matter what kind of injuries he might see. He had seen the crew laugh together over meals, and he had seen them work in total silence during drills, focused completely on saving imaginary patients. These were not reckless people. These were not fools rushing toward danger without thinking, and yet here they were, turning their unarmed ship straight into one of the most dangerous regions of known space, because somewhere out there, people needed help. "We follow them," Soren said. Priyada's ears twitched in surprise. "Captain?" "I did not say we get close," Soren said. "We stay far back. We stay hidden, exactly like our orders say. But I want to see this. I want to know why a ship with no weapons flies straight into a war zone without even slowing down." Priyada did not look happy, but she was a good officer. She nodded and began adjusting their course to match the Kestrel's mercy, keeping the quiet feather far enough back that human sensors should not detect them. Threll's stealth technology was among the best in the Concorde. As long as they kept their distance and did not use active scanners, they should remain invisible. The two ships flew on through the dark, one leading, one following in secret. Aboard the Kestrel's Mercy, Captain Elena Cruz stood on the bridge, watching the same distress signal replay on her main screen. She had already given the order to change course before the message finished playing the first time. That was simply how things worked on a rescue ship. When someone called for help, you did not wait to think it over. You went. "Dr. Reyes," she said into the ship's comm system, "how are we looking on medical supplies?" Tomas Reyes answered from the medical bay a few decks below. His voice was calm, the voice of a man who had done this many times before. "We restocked at the last supply station 3 days ago. We have enough trauma kits, blood substitute, and burn treatment for at least 200 patients, maybe more if injuries are not too severe. I am already setting up triage stations in the cargo bay, in case the medical bay fills up." "Good," Elena said. "Keep me updated." She turned to her pilot, a young man named Diego Santos, who had joined the Relief Corps only a year ago. His hands were steady on the controls, but Elena could see the tension in his shoulders. "You all right, Diego?" she asked. "Captain, the Kessling Belt is an active war zone, 2 empires shooting at each other. We don't have weapons. We don't even have real shields, just enough to handle micrometeorites and debris." "I know," Elena said. "Doesn't that scare you?" Elena thought about the question for a moment. She had been asked it before, by new crew members, by worried family members, by reporters who did stories about the Relief Corps. Her answer was always the same, because it was always true. "Of course it scares me," she said. "Only a fool wouldn't be scared, flying into a place like that. But being scared doesn't change what we have to do. There are people down there who are hurt, or dying, or trapped, and they are counting on someone to come help them. If we don't go, who will? The Karathi and the Sable Combine are too busy fighting each other to care about a human mining station caught between them. We are the only chance those people have." Diego was quiet for a moment, then he nodded, and his hands relaxed slightly on the controls. "Understood, Captain. Setting course for New Haven Station. Estimated arrival, 6 hours." Elena walked the length of the bridge and looked out the main window at the stars ahead. She thought about the people on New Haven Station. She had read the colony's registration file while the ship changed course. It was a small mining outpost, home to about 3,000 people, mostly families, who had come out to the frontier looking for a better life. They mined rare metals from the asteroids in the Kessling Belt and sold them to trading ships that passed through. They had no military, no real defenses, just a small colony trying to survive on the edge of known space, and now caught directly in the path of a war that had nothing to do with them. Elena had grown up on a colony like that herself, a small farming settlement on the edge of human territory. She remembered what it felt like when things went wrong out there, so far from any real help. She remembered the fear of watching the sky, hoping someone, anyone, would come. That was why she had joined the Relief Corps in the first place. She never wanted anyone else to feel as alone as she once had. "All hands," she said into the shipwide comm. "This is the captain. We are heading into the Kessling Belt to answer a distress call from New Haven Station, a human mining colony, currently caught in the conflict between the Karathi Empire and the Sable Combine. I will not lie to you. This will be dangerous. We have no weapons, and we will be flying close to an active war zone. If anyone has serious concerns, come speak to me directly. and I will hear you out. But I want you all to remember why we do this job. We do not go where it is safe. We go where we are needed. Prepare your stations. We arrive in 6 hours. Across the ship, the crew got to work. In the medical bay, Dr. Reyes and his team checked supplies for the 3rd time, making sure every kit was ready. In the cargo bay, crew members set up cots and folding tables for extra triage space. In the engine room, the chief engineer, a woman named Priya Nair, ran extra diagnostics on the engines, making sure they would have full power if the ship needed to move quickly. Nobody complained. Nobody asked to turn back. They had all chosen this job knowing it would sometimes lead them into danger, and they trusted their captain, and they trusted each other. Far behind them, hidden in the dark, Soren Vex watched all of this happen through his ship's sensors. He could not hear the words the humans said to each other, not clearly, but he could see the patterns. The ship's course held steady, not wavering even slightly, even though it was heading toward danger. He could see small shuttles and drones being prepared inside the ship, likely for search and rescue work once they arrived. He could see the ship's power output remain calm and steady, none of the frantic energy spikes he might expect from a crew in a panic. They are not afraid, Priyata said, watching the same readings over his shoulder. No, Soren said slowly. I think they are afraid. I think they are very afraid, but they are going anyway. He had read reports about this human trait before, back at the Concord Science Academy. Some researchers called it courage. Others, more skeptical, called it recklessness or a lack of proper risk assessment. Sitting here now, watching the calm, steady approach of an unarmed ship toward one of the most violent war zones in the region, Soren was beginning to think none of those old reports had really understood it at all. Captain, Priyata said, we are picking up more activity ahead. Long-range sensors show heavy fighting near the Kessling Belt, at least a dozen Karathi warships, and Sable Combine forces as well. This is worse than the reports suggested. Soren felt something cold settle in his stomach. He looked at the small human ship on his screen, flying steadily toward that storm of violence, carrying nothing but medicine, supplies, and a crew of unarmed volunteers. Keep tracking them, he said. Whatever happens next, I want to see it. He did not know it yet, but this mission was about to become far more important than any simple observation report. Whatever the Kestrel's mercy found in the Kessling Belt, and whatever the humans chose to do about it, was going to change everything Soren thought he understood about this strange, stubborn, remarkable species. The 2 ships flew on, one seeking to save lives, and the other beginning to understand, for the first time, why so many other species across the galaxy had learned to be careful around humans, not because humans were dangerous to their friends, but because there was almost nothing humans would not do for someone who needed help. 6 hours to New Haven Station, 6 hours until everything changed. The 6 hours passed slowly for everyone involved, though for very different reasons. On the Kestrel's mercy. The crew used every minute to prepare. Dr. Tomas Reyes walked through the medical bay one more time, checking each drawer and cabinet by hand, even though his team had already checked everything twice. He was not a young man anymore, and he had seen enough disasters in his career to know that careful preparation saved lives. He had served in the Relief Corps for almost 20 years, first as a young field medic and now as chief doctor on one of their best ships. He had seen colonies hit by storms, by accidents in mining tunnels, by disease outbreaks that spread faster than anyone expected. He had never flown directly into an active war zone before, but he told himself the basics would still be the same. Hurt people needed care. That did not change no matter where you found them. His assistant, a young nurse named Fatima Bello, worked beside him, sorting trauma kits into fast-access bags that could be grabbed quickly during an emergency. She had only been with the Relief Corps for 8 months, but she already had a reputation for staying calm under pressure. Dr. Reyes, she said, do you think we will find survivors when we get there? Tomas thought about the question carefully before answering. He always tried to be honest with his younger crew members, even when the truth was hard. I don't know, he said. The message we received was cut off. We don't know how bad the attack was, or if it is still happening. We have to prepare for the worst and hope for something better. Fatima nodded and kept working. On the bridge, Captain Elena Cruz spoke quietly with her second officer, a steady, quiet man named James Okafor, no relation to Dr. Reyes's old friend Amara Okafor from another ship, though the two families had known each other for generations back on Earth. James had served with Elena for 6 years, through storms, through rescues, through everything the Relief Corps had thrown at them. "Captain," James said, looking at the tactical display. "Long-range scans confirm heavy fighting in the Kessling Belt. Karathi and Sable Combine forces are engaged along a wide front. New Haven Station sits almost directly in the middle of it." "Any way around the fighting?" Elena asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Not really. We could take a longer route, but that would add almost 4 hours to our arrival time. Given what we heard in that distress call, I don't think the people down there have 4 extra hours to wait." Elena nodded slowly. "Then we go straight through. Slow and careful, but straight through." "Understood, Captain. I'll plot the safest possible path, staying as far from the heaviest fighting as we can." Elena walked to the front window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead, hidden by distance and darkness, 3,000 people were trapped in the middle of a war that was not theirs. She thought about the families down there, the children, the elderly, all the ordinary people who had simply wanted to build a life on the frontier, and now found themselves caught between two armies, who barely noticed they existed. She thought, too, about the crew of her own ship. 43 people, all volunteers, all trained for exactly this kind of mission, but none of them soldiers. If something went wrong, if a stray shot from either side hit the Kestrel's Mercy, there would be no way to fight back. Their only defense was their identity, as a clearly marked medical ship, and the hope that both sides would respect the old rules about not attacking rescue vessels. Elena had read enough history to know that hope alone was not always enough, but it was what she had, and she would not turn back because of it. Behind them, hidden in the dark, Soren Vex watched the growing chaos ahead with something close to dread. His sensors, even at long range, painted a terrifying picture. Karathi cruisers, heavily armored and armed with plasma cannons, moved in tight battle formations. Sable Combine fighters, smaller and faster, darted between them, launching missile strikes and retreating before the Karathi could return fire effectively. Explosions bloomed silently in the dark of space, bright flashes that Soren's ship translated into data points and energy readings. "Captain," Priyata said, her voice tight, "I am recalculating our safe following distance. At this rate of engagement, stray weapons fire could reach much farther than normal combat ranges. We may need to fall back." Soren studied the readings for a long moment. Priyata was right, of course. The sensible thing to do, the careful thing, would be to increase their distance, perhaps even to abandon the mission entirely, and report back to the Concorde that the situation had become too dangerous to observe safely. But he found himself looking at the small, steady blip of the Kestrel's Mercy. On his screen, still holding its course, still flying directly toward that storm of violence. "Increase our distance, but keep them in sensor range," Soren said. "I want to see what they do when they actually reach the fighting. Captain, with respect, this is not a safe decision." "I know, Priyata, but think about this. That ship is heading into exactly the kind of danger we are trying to avoid, and they know it far better than we do. They have no weapons, no armor, nothing but medical supplies and good intentions. If they believe they can make it through, I want to understand why. If they cannot, I want to see what happens, so the Concorde truly understands what these people are willing to risk for others." Priyata's ears flattened again, a clear sign of her discomfort, but she adjusted the ship's course as ordered, keeping the quiet feather at a slightly greater distance while still tracking the human ship closely. 2 hours before arrival, the Kestrel's Mercy received its first direct contact with the war zone. A burst of static crackled through the comm system, followed by a voice speaking in heavily accented Standard, the common trade language used across most of known space. "Unidentified vessel. This is Karathi Battle Group 7. You are entering an active combat zone. Identify yourself and your intentions immediately, or you will be treated as a hostile target." Elena keyed the comm herself, keeping her voice calm and clear. "Karathi Battle Group 7. This is the medical rescue vessel. Kestrel's Mercy. Registered with the Human Deep Space Relief Corps. We are unarmed and carrying only medical personnel and supplies. We are responding to a distress call from New Haven Station. A civilian colony in your operational area. We request safe passage to render aid to injured civilians. We pose no threat to your forces." There was a long pause. Elena could imagine the Karathi commander on the other end, weighing the situation, deciding whether to believe her. Finally, the voice came back, colder this time. "Human vessel. Be aware that New Haven Station has already suffered significant damage in the crossfire between our forces and the Sable Combine. We cannot guarantee your safety if you proceed. We recommend you turn back." "We understand the risk," Elena replied. "We are proceeding anyway. There are civilians down there who need help. We ask only that your forces recognize our markings and avoid targeting our vessel." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Your markings are noted, human vessel. We will attempt to avoid engaging you directly, but we cannot guarantee the actions of the Sable Combine forces, or the accuracy of weapons fire during active combat. Proceed at your own risk." Karathi Battle Group 7. Out. The channel went silent. On the bridge, James let out a breath he had apparently been holding. "Well," he said, "at least they know who we are now." "Small comfort," Elena said, "but I'll take it. Keep us on course." Soren had listened in on the exchange, his ship's sensors easily picking up the comm signals passing between the human vessel and the Karathi battle group. He translated the conversation carefully, making sure he understood every word. "They told the Karathi commander they were going anyway," Priyata said, disbelief clear in her voice. "Even after being warned directly about the danger." "Yes," Soren said. He found himself feeling something he did not have a good word for in his own language. It was not quite admiration, and not quite confusion, but something close to both at once. "Captain, may I ask you something?" Priyata said. "Of course. Do you think this is wisdom, or is it foolishness? I have studied many species in my career. Most intelligent beings, when faced with clear and present danger, choose to protect themselves first. That is simply how survival works. And yet these humans seem to consistently choose otherwise, at least when someone else's life is at stake." Soren considered the question for a long moment before answering. "I think," he said slowly, "that we may have been asking the wrong question about humans this whole time. We keep asking whether they are dangerous. Perhaps we should be asking what they are willing to risk, and for whom, and why. I do not think we will understand this species until we understand that." The Kestrel's Mercy continued its approach, the fighting growing closer with every passing minute. Explosions now showed clearly on both ships' sensors, close enough that even the human vessel's basic instruments would be picking them up. Elena kept the ship steady, her hands calm on the controls even as her heart pounded harder with every kilometer they covered. Behind her, in the medical bay, Dr. Reyes gathered his team for one final briefing before arrival. "Listen carefully," he said. "When we reach New Haven Station, things are going to move fast. We may be dealing with burn injuries, blast trauma, crush injuries from collapsed structures, and possibly worse. I need everyone focused, everyone working as a team, and everyone remembering their training. We are not here to be heroes. We are here to save as many lives as we possibly can, as quickly and as safely as we can. Understood?" The medical team nodded, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Fatima Bello checked her supply bag one last time, her hands steady despite the nervous energy in the room. "1 more hour," James announced from the bridge. "We are approaching the outer edge of the Kessling Belt now. Sensors show heavy debris fields ahead, along with continued combat activity. New Haven Station should come into visual range within the next 40 minutes. Elena nodded, gripping the arms of her command chair a little tighter than before. "Everyone stay sharp," she said over the ship-wide comm. "We are almost there." Far behind them, hidden in the growing chaos of battle, Soren Vex watched the small human ship press forward into the very heart of the storm, and for the first time in his long career as a careful, cautious Thrall scout, he found himself hoping, quietly and sincerely, that they would make it through alive. New Haven Station came into view like a wounded animal, drifting and broken against the black backdrop of space. Elena Cruz stared at the main screen, her stomach tightening at what she saw. The station had once been a proud ring-shaped structure, built to house 3,000 people and support a busy mining operation. Now, half of the outer ring was scorched black, torn open by weapons fire. Debris floated in a slow, silent cloud around the station, pieces of metal and equipment that had once been someone's home or workplace. Emergency lights blinked weakly from sections that still had power, and Elena could see at least 3 large breaches in the station's hull, places where the vacuum of space had likely already claimed lives. "Report," she said quietly. James Okafor's voice was tight as he read from his console. "Station life support is failing in 2 of the 4 main sections. I am picking up multiple distress beacons from escape pods that never launched, meaning people are still trapped inside. Population estimate remaining alive, based on emergency beacon signals, somewhere between 800 and 1,200 people. That's less than half the original population, Captain." Elena closed her eyes for just a moment, forcing herself to stay steady. This was not the time to grieve for the people they could not save. This was the time to save the ones they still could. "Take us in," she said. "James, find us a safe approach vector, away from the active fighting if possible. Dr. Reyes, prepare your team for immediate deployment once we dock." "Understood, Captain," Tomas Reyes answered over the comm, his voice steady despite everything. The Kestrel's Mercy moved carefully through the debris field, its pilot Diego Santos guiding the ship with a skill that surprised even himself. Pieces of wreckage drifted past the viewport, some of them clearly parts of destroyed shuttles or damaged mining equipment. Diego kept his focus entirely on his controls, weaving the ship gently between larger pieces of debris, while avoiding the areas where fighting still seemed to be happening nearby. "Captain," Diego said, "I'm picking up 2 Sable Combine fighters on an intercept course. They're closing fast." Elena's heart jumped, but she kept her voice calm. "Open a channel." "Channel open. Sable Combine fighters. This is the medical rescue vessel. Kestrel's Mercy. We are unarmed and here to render aid to civilians on New Haven Station. Please hold your fire." There was a tense silence, filled only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Then a new voice crackled through the speakers, sharp and clipped. "Human vessel, we read your markings. Be advised, Karathi forces have been using civilian structures for cover during this engagement. If you dock at that station, you risk becoming a target regardless of your markings." "We understand the risk," Elena said. "We are proceeding to render aid regardless." Another pause. "Your choice, human. We will not fire on you directly, but we cannot guarantee your safety." Sable Combine fighters, breaking off. The 2 fighters peeled away, continuing their patrol elsewhere in the debris field. Elena let out a slow breath. "Diego, get us to the main docking ring. Dr. Reyes, be ready to move the moment we connect." Hidden far behind, Soren Vex watched the entire scene unfold on his sensors, his large black eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. He had seen combat before, from a safe distance, during his years as a Concord scout. He had never seen an unarmed civilian ship fly directly into the middle of an active war zone, then calmly negotiate its way past armed fighters from 2 different hostile powers, simply by explaining its purpose and refusing to turn back. "Captain," Priyata said, her voice barely above a whisper, "they just talked their way past armed warships. No weapons, no threats, just words, and a willingness to keep going, no matter what was said to them." "I saw," Soren said. "This is not normal behavior for any species I have studied," Priyata continued. "Most beings, when threatened by armed hostiles, either retreat or attempt some form of defense. These humans simply continued forward, as if the danger was not enough of a reason to stop." Soren thought about this carefully. "I think, for them, it is not that the danger does not matter. I think it is that the people they are trying to save matter more." He adjusted his ship's sensors, focusing them more closely on the Kestrel's Mercy. As it approached the damaged station, he wanted to see everything now. Whatever report he eventually sent back to the Concord Science Council, he wanted it to be accurate, and he was beginning to suspect that the old reports about humans, the ones calling them simply dangerous or unpredictable, had missed something important. The Kestrel's Mercy. Docked with New Haven Station's least damaged section, the connection tunnel extending and sealing with a hiss of pressurized air. The moment the all-clear signal sounded, Dr. Reyes and his team moved fast, pushing carts loaded with medical supplies through the connecting tunnel and into the station itself. What they found inside was worse than anyone had expected. The station's main corridor was dark, except for emergency lighting, casting everything in a dim red glow. Smoke still hung in the air in some sections, and the smell of burned metal and melted plastic filled the corridors. People huddled in groups wherever they could find shelter, some with visible injuries, others simply in shock, staring blankly at nothing. Fatima Bello was the first to reach a group of survivors, a family of 4 huddled near a bulkhead, the mother cradling a young child with a badly burned arm. Fatima knelt down immediately, opening her trauma kit. "I'm a nurse from the rescue ship," she said gently. "You're safe now. Let me help your daughter." The mother, tears streaking through the soot on her face, could only nod, too overwhelmed to speak. Fatima worked quickly and carefully, cleaning and treating the burn while speaking softly to keep the child calm. Deeper into the station, Dr. Reyes found a group of station engineers trying to free people trapped behind a collapsed section of wall. He immediately organized his team to help, directing some to begin treating the injured, while others assisted with the rescue effort itself. "We need more hands here," one of the engineers called out. "There are at least 6 people trapped behind this wall, and we don't have the equipment to move it safely." "Show me," Reyes said, and within minutes, he had organized a system, using the rescue ship's portable cutting tools to carefully clear a path through the wreckage, while station medics tended to those who could already be reached. Word spread quickly through the damaged station that help had arrived. Survivors who had been hiding in maintenance shafts and storage closets began emerging, some carrying injured neighbors, others simply looking for any sign of safety. The medical team from the Kestrel's Mercy found themselves overwhelmed almost immediately, treating burns, broken bones, smoke inhalation, and worse, all while explosions continued to echo somewhere outside the station's hull as the battle raged on nearby. Elena Cruz moved through the chaos, coordinating everything from a portable command station set up near the docking tunnel. She listened to reports coming in from every direction, directing resources where they were needed most, all while keeping one eye on the tactical display showing the ongoing battle outside. "Captain," James called from the ship, his voice tense. "The fighting is getting closer. Karathi forces are falling back toward this section of the debris field. If they keep retreating this way, we could end up directly in the crossfire." Elena felt a cold weight settle in her chest, but she did not slow down. "How much time do we have?" "Hard to say. 20 minutes, maybe less." 20 minutes. She looked at the scene around her. Dozens of injured civilians still being treated. More survivors still emerging from hiding places throughout the station. Her own crew working as fast as they possibly could to save every life they could reach. "We keep working," she said. "We don't leave anyone behind if we can help it. But James, keep a close eye on that battle. The moment it becomes too dangerous to stay, I want to know immediately." "Understood, Captain." From his hidden position, Soren watched the tactical situation grow more dangerous by the minute. The Karathi forces, pushed back by a determined Sable Combine assault, were indeed retreating directly toward the section of the debris field where New Haven Station and the Kestrel's Mercy were located. If the fighting reached that area, the unarmed rescue ship and the wounded station would be directly in the path of heavy weapons fire. "Captain," Priyata said urgently, "the humans are still on that station. They have not begun evacuation procedures. Based on their communication patterns, they appear to be continuing rescue operations despite the approaching danger." Soren felt a strange tightness in his chest, an emotion he did not often experience during observation missions. Concern. Real concern. For beings he had known only through sensor readings and intercepted communications. "Do we have any way to warn them more directly?" he asked. "Something beyond what their own sensors are already telling them." "Captain, that would mean revealing our presence. We have been assigned strictly to passive observation. Direct contact was never authorized." Soren stared at the screen, watching the small human ship remain docked at the damaged station, even as the tactical situation grew more dangerous with every passing minute. He thought about his orders, about the careful, cautious way his people always approached unknown situations, always keeping themselves safe first, always avoiding unnecessary risk. Then he thought about Elena Cruz, telling her own crew that fear did not change what needed to be done. He thought about Fatima Bello, kneeling beside a stranger's injured child in a burning station. He thought about Dr. Reyes, organizing survivors, and directing rescue efforts even as explosions echoed just outside the hull. Priyata, he said slowly, sometimes the careful choice is not the right choice. He reached for the comm controls himself. Priyata stared at her captain in shock. Captain, are you certain? Direct contact will end this mission's status as pure observation. The Concord Science Council will have questions. There could be consequences for breaking protocol. I am aware, Soren said, his paws already moving across the comm controls. But I would rather explain my choices to the Science Council than watch that ship and its crew die, because we were too careful to say anything. He opened a direct channel to the Kestrel's Mercy. Using a basic translation protocol that Threll scouts carried for emergency contact situations, his voice, translated into standard, came through as a calm, even tone, though his heart was pounding faster than it had in years. Human vessel. Kestrel's Mercy. This is Concord scout ship. Quiet Feather. We have been monitoring your situation and wish to provide critical information. Karathi forces are retreating directly toward your position. Estimated time until the battle reaches New Haven Station is approximately 15 minutes. We recommend immediate evacuation preparations. On the bridge of the Kestrel's Mercy. Elena Cruz froze for half a second, staring at the comm display in surprise. James Okafor looked equally stunned. Captain, he said, that signal just came from nowhere. We had no contact registered anywhere near us. Elena recovered quickly, her training taking over. Whoever or whatever this Concord scout was, the information matched what her own sensors were already telling her, and there was no time to question it further. Quiet Feather, this is Kestrel's Mercy. Thank you for the warning. Can you confirm your identity and intentions? There was a brief pause before Soren answered. We are a Concord scientific observation vessel. Our intentions are peaceful. We have been tracking your mission for some time, out of scientific interest in your species. We did not intend to make contact, but the danger to your crew outweighed our protocol. We wanted you to have every possible warning. Elena felt a strange mixture of alarm and gratitude. Someone had been secretly watching her ship, possibly for days, but that same someone had just risked breaking their own rules to warn her crew of approaching danger. There would be time to think about the strangeness of that later. Right now, she had 15 minutes, maybe less, to get as many people to safety as possible. Understood, and thank you, she said quickly. We'll discuss this further if we both survive the next hour. Kestrel's Mercy, out. She switched immediately to the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We have 15 minutes before active combat reaches our position. Dr. Reyes, I need a status report on evacuation readiness. Tomas Reyes's voice came back immediately, breathless from running through the station's corridors. Captain, we have stabilized the most critical injuries, but we still have dozens of survivors who need to be moved to the ship. Some are trapped behind debris and cannot be moved quickly. How many total? At least 200 people still on the station, including the injured we've been treating, and survivors we haven't fully evacuated yet. Elena did quick math in her head. The Kestrel's Mercy was built to carry emergency capacity of up to 300 people in crisis situations, using every available space including cargo holds and corridors. It would be tight, uncomfortable and difficult, but it could be done, if they moved fast enough. Dr. Reyes, prioritize the most critically injured first, then work through everyone else as quickly as possible. James, I want engines ready for immediate departure, the moment we have everyone aboard, or the moment the danger becomes too great, whichever comes first. Understood, Captain. What followed was 15 minutes of pure, controlled chaos. Fatima Bello worked alongside station engineers, helping carry stretchers through the darkened corridors toward the docking tunnel. Her arms ached, and her lungs burned from the lingering smoke, but she did not stop moving. Every survivor she helped move was one more life that would make it out of this place alive. Dr. Reyes personally supervised the evacuation of the most critical patients, making split-second decisions about who needed to move first, who could wait a few more minutes, and who needed continuous medical support even during transport. He had trained for exactly this kind of situation for years, but nothing could fully prepare a person for the reality of making these choices, with the sound of distant explosions growing steadily louder. Diego Santos, though technically the ship's pilot, found himself helping carry supplies and even wounded survivors through the connecting tunnel, unwilling to sit idle in the cockpit while his crewmates worked so hard just a few decks away. 10 minutes, James announced over the comm, his voice tight with tension. Combat signature is definitely moving this direction. I'm reading heavy weapons fire less than 200,000 kilometers out and closing. Elena stood near the docking tunnel entrance, watching the steady stream of survivors and crew members moving back and forth, doing everything in her power to keep the evacuation organized and efficient, despite the growing danger. "Keep it moving, everyone," she called out. "We're almost there." A station engineer, an older man with gray hair and soot covering half his face, approached Elena, practically dragging along a woman with a badly injured leg. "Captain, is it true? Is there really a warship out there? Are we going to survive this?" Elena looked at him, at the desperate hope in his eyes, and made a decision she would stand by no matter what. "We are going to get you out of here," she said firmly. "All of you, I promise. Aboard the Quiet Feather." Soren watched the human evacuation effort with growing tension. His sensors showed the approaching battle clearly now. Karathi warships firing as they retreated. Sable Combine fighters pursuing aggressively. The fighting was undeniably heading straight toward New Haven Station and the docked Kestrel's Mercy. "Captain," Priyata said, "should we consider direct intervention? Perhaps we could attempt to draw enemy attention away from the station, or provide additional warning to the combat forces about the presence of civilians." Soren considered this carefully. The Quiet Feather was a small scout vessel, built for stealth and observation, not combat, and definitely not equipped for anything resembling a rescue operation. But perhaps there was something else they could do. "Open a channel to the Karathi and Sable Combine forces," Soren said. "Both of them, simultaneously if possible. Captain, that will definitely reveal our position and our involvement to both military forces. This is far beyond our authorized protocol." "I am aware," Soren said again, and this time there was no hesitation in his voice at all. "Open the channel, Priyata." She did, her paws moving quickly across her console despite her obvious reservations. Soren took a breath, gathering his thoughts, then spoke. "Karathi Battle Group 7, Sable Combine Forces. This is Concord Scout Vessel. Quiet Feather. Be advised, a human medical rescue vessel is currently conducting an active evacuation of civilian survivors from New Haven Station. Approximately 200 non-combatants remain in the immediate combat zone. We formally request that both forces divert their engagement away from this location to allow the rescue operation to be completed safely." There was a long silence. Soren half expected no response at all, or perhaps an angry demand to identify his ship's full designation and purpose. Instead, after a tense pause, the Karathi commander's voice came through, gruff but clear. "Concord vessel, your request is noted. Karathi forces will attempt to redirect our retreat vector away from the station, though we cannot guarantee complete avoidance given current battle conditions." A moment later, the Sable Combine channel crackled to life as well. "Acknowledged, Concord vessel. We will hold our pursuit at current range, to avoid the civilian evacuation zone. This is a temporary courtesy only, not a ceasefire." Soren let out a long breath he had not realized he was holding. It was not a guarantee of safety, not by any means, but it bought precious time, and right now, time was exactly what the humans needed most. "Well done, Captain," Priyata said quietly, and Soren could hear something new in her voice, something that had not been there before. Respect, perhaps, both for the decision he had just made, and unexpectedly, for the humans they had been sent to observe. Back aboard the Kestrel's Mercy. James Okafor watched in amazement as the tactical display showed both warring fleets shifting their engagement paths slightly, just enough to reduce the immediate danger to New Haven Station. "Captain, I don't know what just happened, but the combat vectors just changed. We might actually have more time than we thought." Elena did not have time to wonder about the reasons behind this small miracle. "Then let's use it. Keep the evacuation moving." 7 more minutes passed in a blur of stretchers, supply carts, and exhausted crew members, moving as fast as their bodies would allow. Finally, Dr. Reyes's voice came through the comm, ragged with exhaustion, but filled with relief. "Captain, That's everyone. All 211 survivors are aboard, along with our full medical team. We are ready for immediate departure. Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her so strong it nearly buckled her knees. Understood. James, seal the docking tunnel and prepare for emergency departure. Tunnel sealed, Captain. Engines at full readiness. Take us out of here. The Kestrel's Mercy. Disengaged from the battered remains of New Haven Station, its engines flaring as it pulled away from the debris field, carrying over 200 additional survivors packed into every available space on the ship. Behind them, the sounds of battle continued, but the worst of the fighting had shifted. Just enough. Just in time. Elena sank into her command chair, allowing herself, for just a moment, to feel the full weight of everything that had just happened. They had done it. Against every reasonable expectation, they had flown into an active war zone and pulled hundreds of people out alive. Captain, James said quietly, that scout ship, the one who warned us, they're hailing us again. Elena straightened up, taking a steadying breath. Put them through. The comm channel opened with a soft chime, and a translated voice, calm, but clearly nervous, filled the bridge of the Kestrel's Mercy. Nay, Captain Cruz, this is Soren Vex, captain of the Concord scout vessel. Quiet, Feather. I am glad to see your ship made it out safely. Elena studied the comm display, though there was no visual feed, only the audio connection. Captain Vex, I believe we owe you our thanks, and possibly our lives. Your warning gave us the time we needed, and whatever you said to those warring fleets bought us even more. May I ask why a Concord scout ship was following us in the first place? There was a pause on the other end, and when Soren spoke again, his voice carried something that sounded almost like embarrassment. I will be honest with you, Captain, since you have more than earned honesty from me today. My mission was to observe your ship and your species, quietly and without contact, as part of a wider Concord effort to better understand humans. There has been considerable disagreement among the star nations about what kind of species you truly are. Elena raised an eyebrow, though of course Soren could not see the expression. And what have you decided, after watching us fly into a war zone to rescue strangers? Another pause, longer this time. I do not think I fully understand your species yet, Captain Cruz, but I no longer believe the old reports that called you simply dangerous, or simply unpredictable. I watched your crew choose, again and again, to risk everything for people they had never met, people from a species not even your own. I watched your doctor organize a rescue effort in a burning station, while explosions sounded just outside the walls. I do not have a word in my own language for what I saw today. Perhaps you have a better one. Elena thought about it for a moment. We just call it doing our job, she said, though I suppose it comes from something a bit deeper than that. We believe that if someone needs help, and we are able to give it, then we should. It doesn't matter much to us who they are, or where they come from. That's simply how we try to live. A dangerous philosophy, Soren said, by the standards of most species I have studied. And yet, watching you today, I find myself wondering if it might also be one of the wisest philosophies I have encountered. James, listening quietly from his station, spoke up. Captain Vex, if I may ask, why did you break your own protocol to help us? You said contact wasn't authorized. Soren's answer came without hesitation this time, because I realized that being careful is not the same as being right. My people value caution above almost everything else. We survive by avoiding unnecessary risk, but watching your crew today, I understood that sometimes, caution without compassion is simply another word for cowardice. I could not sit safely in the dark and watch good people die when I had the power to help, even in a small way. The bridge was quiet for a moment, everyone absorbing the weight of those words. For what it's worth, Elena said finally. That took courage too, Captain Vex. Breaking your own rules, contacting two warring military forces, risking your own ship's safety. That's not so different from what my crew does every day. Deep in the cargo hold, now packed with over 200 exhausted survivors from New Haven Station, Dr. Tomas Reyes moved slowly between rows of injured patients, checking on each one personally despite his own exhaustion. Fatima Bello worked alongside him, her earlier fear replaced now with quiet, steady focus. An older woman, The same station engineer's wife, whose leg had been badly injured during the evacuation, reached out and caught Fatima's hand as she passed. "Thank you," the woman said softly. "I didn't think anyone was coming for us. We heard the fighting getting closer every day, and we thought we had been forgotten out here." Fatima knelt beside her, checking the bandage on her leg. "You weren't forgotten," she said. "Someone is always listening for calls, like the one your station sent. That's what we're here for." Across the cargo hold, a young boy, no older than 7, sat wrapped in a blanket beside his father, watching the medical crew move back and forth with wide, tired eyes. Dr. Reyes crouched down beside him for a moment, offering a small, warm smile, despite everything that had happened. "You did great today," Reyes told the boy gently. "You were very brave." The boy managed a small, shaky smile in return, the first one Reyes had seen from any of the survivors since they had boarded. 2 days later, the Kestrel's Mercy arrived at a Relief Corps supply station on the edge of human territory, where the survivors of New Haven Station could be properly cared for, resettled, and reunited with any family members from other colonies who had already heard about the attack. The transfer took most of a full day, exhausted survivors slowly making their way off the rescue ship and into the waiting arms of relief workers, and, in many joyful, tearful cases, family members who had feared the worst. Elena stood near the boarding ramp, watching the last of the survivors disembark, when a familiar voice crackled through her personal comm unit. "Captain Cruz, this is Soren Vex. I hope I am not intruding." Elena smiled slightly, stepping away from the crowd for a moment of privacy. "Not at all, Captain Vex. I was actually hoping we might speak again before you headed back to Concord Space." "As was I," Soren said. "I wanted to inform you that I have submitted my full report to the Concord Science Council, detailing everything I witnessed during our encounter. I do not know exactly how they will respond, but I believe it will change, at least somewhat, how many species across the Concord view your people." "For better or worse?" Elena asked, only half joking. "For better, I believe," Soren said. "Though perhaps also with a new kind of caution. I think many species will come to understand that humans are not dangerous because you seek conflict, but because you refuse to abandon those who need help, even when the cost to yourselves might be very high. That is a kind of strength that makes some beings nervous, Captain Cruz, even when it is used entirely for good." Elena considered this for a long moment, looking out at the crowd of survivors being welcomed by relief workers and reunited families nearby. Children laughing with relief, parents crying tears of gratitude, the quiet, steady work of putting shattered lives back together, piece by piece. "I suppose I understand that," she said finally, "but for what it's worth, Captain Vex, I hope your people, and every other species out there, come to understand something else about us too. We don't do this because we want to be feared, or respected, or admired. We do it because somewhere out there, someone always needs help, and we would rather be the ones who show up than the ones who look away." There was a warmth in Soren's voice when he replied, "I believe I understand that now, Captain Cruz, better than I ever could have from simple observation alone. Thank you for showing me something I don't think I would have learned any other way." "Thank you," Elena replied, "for the warning that saved so many lives. And for breaking your own rules when it mattered most." "Perhaps," Soren said, "that is something our two species have in common after all, even if we did not know it before today." In the months that followed, the story of the Kestrel's Mercy and the rescue at New Haven Station spread quietly through both human and Concord space. Soren Vex's report, detailed and thoughtful, became required reading for Concord diplomats and scouts, preparing for future contact with human colonies. It did not end every disagreement or every rumor about humanity's unpredictable nature, but it added something important to the conversation, a first-hand account of exactly what humans were willing to risk and why. Elena Cruz continued her work with the Relief Corps, leading the Kestrel's Mercy on dozens more rescue missions across human and allied space in the years that followed. She never forgot the small, careful alien scout who had broken his own rules to save her crew, and from time to time, when a Concord vessel happened to cross paths with her ship during some new mission, she made a point of sending a simple, friendly greeting across the comm, just in case an old friend happened to be listening. Somewhere out in the vast dark of space, aboard a small stealth scout ship built by a cautious, careful species, Soren Vex kept a copy of that first message, always ready in his personal files. A quiet reminder of the day he learned that sometimes, the most careful thing a person can do is refuse to stay silent when someone else needs help. And across the wider galaxy, slowly but surely, other species began to understand a little better what it truly meant to follow a human rescue ship into the dark, and to see, with their own eyes, exactly what humanity was willing to do for the sake of a single, distant cry for help.